Welcome to the Endurance Horse Podcast, where endurance riders from all across the globe gather, sharing their stories, goals, and progress as they train for and compete in endurance events at every level. So kick off your shoes, pull up a chair, and listen as we gather around the virtual campfire and listen to friends from across the world.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Endurance Horse Podcast. Today we're honored to chat with Victoria Goss, one of the pioneers in equine rescue. Victoria founded the Last Chance Corral, one of Ohio's first formal equine rescues. Last Chance Corral is indeed one of the pioneering organizations in the state dedicated to rescuing, rehabilitating horses, and particularly nursemaid foals from the racing industry. Its founder, Victoria Goss, has been instrumental in establishing and shaping the equine rescue landscape in Ohio for 40 years. Today, we delve into Victoria's journey and the incredible work of Last Chance Corral in providing sanctuary and hope to the nursemaid foals. A side note, as incomprehensible as it is to me, I have gotten some pushback in helping a foal rescue. The controversy should never be around rescuing a foal. It should be around the reason the foals need rescuing in the first place. Maybe you will find your next endurance prospect waiting to be adopted at the Last Chance Corral in Athens, Ohio. Without further ado, I bring to you episode 62 of Endurance Horse Podcast. Welcome to the podcast, Victoria.
Howdy. That was perfect.
Good.
Oh, what a day. Yeah, well, tomorrow morning we're going for the first foal. I'll be leaving out around dawn to go get the first 5. So that's kind of exciting. It's opening, and they're older babies. The season starts out with some older foals that were born before the demand for them, and then they get younger and younger as the season goes on.
So I just had a few questions for you.
Yeah, as long as they're not math.
They are not math. Math is not my friend either.
Oh, excellent. We're going to get along just fine. Well, thank you for having me. I'm honored to be in your presence. You've done a lot of great things for a lot of different organizations, and I'm fortunate enough to say that I am included in those numbers.
Well, we were so happy to learn about Last Chance Corral and to find out some of the horses doing our War Horse Endurance Challenges were actually from Ohio, from your brood of babies that you get every year. And
I know, it's amazing.
It is amazing. And
that we put out, that we would average 150 to 200 foals a year for almost 40 years now, maybe. Maybe it is 40 years. That's a lot of babies out there.
You know, when a lot of things were shut down is when we started War Horse Endurance and the challenges. And I was out trail riding, and they had been closing down our forests, and we weren't even allowed to do that. And I ran into a rider, and she said, "Come to my house, I have trails." And so I had hauled to her house one day, and she starts telling me about her paint mare and how it came from your place. So it was shortly after talking to her, because we didn't do Valor the first year, we did it the second year. I had seen some things about Last Chance Corral, and then I met her baby that was one of your babies. So it was that, wow, that is a small world.
Yeah. And where was that? What state?
In Eagle, Wisconsin. And her name is Lynn, and she's an artist and a jeweler. So she...
Okay, yeah, I remember. She made us some jewelry for a fundraiser.
She's pretty talented, and she loves that horse.
It's wonderful because, when I first initially found out about them, I ended up moving out here from New England I loved it. I first came to Athens when I was at school in Ithaca, New York, and met somebody from Athens, and I became close friends with a vet here. And when I found out about all these foals over the border in Kentucky that were just being killed or left to die, that I guess I felt responsible, like somebody's got to do something. Mm-hmm. And it's not a new practice. It's just that it wasn't ever exposed. And it's mostly, due to thoroughbred racing. Anybody can lease a nurse mare. If your backyard paint didn't have milk, or she died, or she rejected the foal, you can hire a nurse mare. But when I speak to the nurse mare farmers, and it's a big business in Kentucky, 90 to 95% is what they say go to thoroughbreds because of how the breeding occurs. Do you want to know more about that?
So I did have several questions in order,
Okay.
and you kind of started to touch on them, actually. So the first one was, when did you become passionate about rescuing horses in general? Because I know that while you're well known for these foals, you also deal with adult horses.
Oh, yeah.
So when did that first walk into your life?
Well, there were always horses in my life. I grew up on a farm on the New Hampshire-Vermont border, and we had dairy cows, all Jerseys. And there was always, a horse or two around. Of course, there were 6 daughters in the family. I'm the only one that actually stuck with it, though. Got my very first pony, when I was in probably the 2nd or 3rd grade. But I did my first horse rescue when I was 12 years old. We went to a farm to look at some cattle that were very thin. They wanted my father to come and assess their condition. And there was this starving big old horse there. And I asked the guy what he wanted for it. And he said, well, the killer was going to give me $50. And I said, I'll give you $50. And they got it into a trailer. And when they got it to my house, we had to slide it out of the trailer. He was in such bad shape. And that $50 was all the money I had to my name. And I fattened him up, and I got him going good and sold him to a friend for $100 and put that $100 into the account for the next horse that would need me. And it was just an idea that I had. I'd never heard of horse rescue before. Then as I was in my 20s, I was riding horses for people. And I was working with a lot of behavioral problem horses. And there were more and more of them that, were handled poorly. There are very few bad horses. They've just been handled inappropriately by people who didn't speak the language,
Right.
There was definite language barriers. And as I did more and more of that, and there are dog shelters and cat shelters in almost every community, but no large animal shelters. There were none. And I started doing what I do. By 30, I was full-blown tax-exempt organization. It was not easy to get because there previously were no horse rescues, but now there's plenty of them. They're everywhere. There's a lot of opportunity in any field of nonprofit for charlatans to make money. But if you saw how I lived, in my little log cabin, built the full barn onto it so that we could be with them because it's 24-hour care. You might be out there all night doing IV fluids and feeding tubes, blood transfusions, oxygen, the whole 9 yards. And I'm blessed with having my best friend be my vet, and she lives 9/10 of a mile away. So she gets to be here. When she closes her clinic, she comes here and does her second clinic.
So can you educate our listeners? Most of the listeners of this podcast are either doing endurance, or they used to do endurance, or they're looking at getting into endurance. And they maybe, just like a lot of horse people have no experience or even heard of endurance, maybe our endurance riders haven't ever heard of what a nurse mare is. Can you tell us?
Yeah, absolutely. This is how it goes. What drives this industry is thoroughbred breeding. A thoroughbred racehorse cannot race in this country unless it was conceived through live cover. The stallion and the mare have to get together physically. No shipping of semen, etc. A horse has an 11-month gestation, right?
Right.
Right. So, now, let's just call her Mrs. Racehorse. Her job is to put a racehorse baby on the ground every year. It's an 11-month gestation. By the time that foal is 2 and needs to become competitive, you can't have had it born later in the year. You want it born as close to January 1st as you can get. But it's got the advantage of all that extra growth, right? The mare has her foal, Mrs. Racehorse, Little Secretariat, and Little Secretariat is doing fine, but then his mother will, before she hits that foal, 9 days, she's got to go to the stallion, and the foal cannot go with her. They're not welcome. It's too dangerous, and they can't insure them on that trailer ride. So the foal needs somebody to take care of it, because by the time Mom, Mrs. Racehorse, gets back from being bred, her milk will have dried up, and they would prefer all her energy going into the production of next year's baby.
Okay.
So Little Secretariat needs somebody, and they hire a nurse mare. The nurse mare had its own baby, so it came into milk. That baby is considered a byproduct at that time. And historically, they were just, nobody wanted them because horses are very difficult to raise. And they're not just newborns. A lot of them are induced labor preemies. It's very difficult the first couple weeks with these guys. And I know people are going to be saying, but you can bring a mare into milk with hormones. It can be medically done if she's already had foals in the past. Well, that comes with its own set of problems, mainly that the human is going to have to do the process. You're going to have to give them the shots, and it's expensive compared to doing nothing. These mares have to come back. If they weren't bred before they were hired, they have to come back in foal. And they're going to some pretty damn fancy farms. Not everybody can afford a nurse mare. Mind hiring 20 or 30 or 40. So they a lot of times are covered with, they will use some of the stallions that are learning their trade, and they'll practice on nurse mares. So we've had some pretty well-bred daddies. A lot of our foals have turned out to be champions in every field. The number one amateur eventer in the country last year was one of my foals that I raised until he was 4. So, but back to the subject, that's how they're only a byproduct. But when I started, there wasn't a lot of good information on, saving these things. And when I started, I was told by the vets, if I only lost 40%, I was doing really good. And our mortality rate stands today at 2.5, I think. Maybe some years 3. We don't lose very many, but I've become the thing that I'm famous for, and when I'm gone, I'll be remembered as the queen of diarrhea. It's the number one thing that kills them is the dehydration.
Yeah.
And I've just become a really good diarrhea person.
To manage it. Yep.
It's my life.
Yeah.
Really funny. In the barn, we have descriptions, all these different, is it pudding poop? Is it like a milkshake? Is it like, so that we know what to, and I make my own special poop medicine from several other products, then it really works good. But we do have to, you've got to monitor them, and it's a lot of medicine. When they get adopted, they've got to go to homes that know what they're doing. They're not for beginners. You've got to have somebody who can look at a horse and see that there is something wrong. A lot of awareness and knowledge of the language, and a pretty good nutritional and medical background is also a big help.
So I think this is on topic, but maybe slightly off topic. Am I wrong in asking that if the Jockey Club just allowed artificial coverage like every other breed, that this would dry up?
You're totally on topic, because it's pretty much one of the 3 factors, but the biggest one that pushes the other ones. You're going to take, if you can take and collect from a stallion and create 20 or 100 or 200 ampules, it takes away the exclusivity. And when you look at a horse like Stormcat, who at one point was making $500,000 a pop, and it took him 28 seconds to do the deed. There's a book that was written called The Most Expensive 30 Seconds in Sports about racehorse breeding. It's a really good book. But Stormcat, he was one of a few, and then after a certain amount of time, he dropped down to 300,000, and I think he may have even passed now. But if you can divide that semen up and send it, you're going to drive the price down. And anything bad that happens with animals because of human intervention in a negative way is all because of money. And if you can make $500,000 a shot with your stallion, you're not going to spread that around and make it, $20,000.
But I'm just thinking from a business perspective here. If you only did limited offerings, I mean, these are all businessmen. They should be able to come up with a better way, like saying, we stand to a limited book, even though it's AI. We only offer 50 or 100 per year. And then, let's just say you said Secretariat. So if the racing industry, it seems like they're missing opportunity, because what if there was still...
It's a free slope.
Yeah.
Then, what if somebody, you have to do all the blood work? I mean, there's a lot of reasons why they wouldn't. There are, in my opinion, more reasons why they would, but I can't speak to that mentality because I'm not in that business.
Right.
And I can make observations.
It's just me thinking out loud that... let's say they did own a Secretariat and they did collect and they only offered 100 bookings per year. And then that horse did pass. And they had frozen semen and every other...
you can bet they've got frozen semen on all the great horses.
So,
Barbaro, they collected off of him and froze a bunch.
But
if they can't use it
yet. So to me, it just seems like it would be a step into the modern world to go ahead and do AI, because, we've registered horses, say Tricaners, we've registered them, and you have to pull DNA off the horse to find the parentage. And
it would seem that they would do that. But if you're addressing kind of an old boys club in Kentucky,
right.
I can't say why they do things the way they do. It doesn't make sense.
Sure.
A lot of the bad things that happen to animals, I don't think are based in black-heartedness. They're based in a form of ignorance, whether it's generational ignorance. The way that they are working down in Kentucky is maybe they do things the way it's always been done.
Yes.
To educate people. And educating human is very difficult, especially if they've got their mind set against it. It takes a lot of the experiences one-on-one that I've had with people to educate them to what's really happening. No. You called this nurse mare farm, and oddly enough, they have a mare who just lost her foal when you ordered one. That's not what happened. It wasn't convenient. That you are responsible for the death of that animal. He was only created so that he would be snuffed out, so that you could lease that mare. So a few of them, they've stood up and been accountable. Thoroughbred Charities of America helped me to build my foal barn. And it's got, the steel walls, because everything's got to be completely sanitized all the time, and wood is too porous. There are thoroughbred organizations, and there are breeders who now, they will only use nurse mares that were brought into milk hormonally. Changes can be made. They don't ever happen, or so it seems, as quickly as one would like. And it takes a lot of effort, but there are less foals being produced, at least that I know of. I might have closed a few doors with my opinions, but the farms that I work with, I'm working with this one farm in particular that I've worked with, and they're the where I got my very first nurse mare foal, and they are kind. They take it personally when they lose a foal, and so it's easier to work with them. There are inroads being made, and change comes about slowly.
And I would think it's really important to preserve that relationship. Just saying, that would be a hard relationship to build.
Since I've come along, they haven't had to deal with the leftover foal. It doesn't have to weigh on them that those foals have the best chance of survival through me.
And let's just be clear, you're not enabling them. It's not like you're enabling them. This would go on with or without you. Right.
Yes. Oh, absolutely. Because the mares, you can lease a mare from anywhere from like $1,500 to $3,000 for 4 months of that mare is just feeding somebody's baby, and if she wasn't bred before she left, she comes back bred, and she does it every year.
I've had mostly positive feedback that we are doing Valor and we're supporting this, but I've had maybe 2 or 3 people that were negative, like that this is enabling
to happen regardless. That's not, the money isn't, yes, I do have to pay a little something for the foals, but that's to ensure that they can be fed and taken care of till I can get there the next day. The money is in leasing the mares. It's really funny. You know, you try to do a good thing, and it's not, I don't even do a good thing. I'm doing a good thing. Save thousands of lives, and not really benefited from it personally, but that wasn't my goal.
Right.
But there are always haters, and haters are going to hate. There are people who maybe aren't doing enough in their life that they have time to harass do-gooders. It just happens. I think we're all honor-bound to do something good with our lives. That's one of the basic premises that I live by. That and the old Vermont state motto, which was, hold fast to your dream, but temper your ideals with reality. And in rescue, you have to do that. You can't just take in everything. You can only take in what you can physically, emotionally, and financially take care of. And I see a lot of people that end up with too many horses, too many dogs, too many cats. You know, it can happen.
Yeah.
So,
it does.
And yeah, there's a lot of flack out there, but I try not to let it bother me too much.
You can't. This was a question I was going to ask later, but it kind of fits now. Because this is an international podcast, it's heavily in the Midwest, but also we have a pretty good base in Australia and Canada and some in New Zealand. And so I've been wanting to ask you, so let's just say in Australia, I didn't even know this, but one of our participants and listeners, the harness racing is a huge thing over there. So standard breds, she works at a standard bred rescue. Does the standard bred industry use nurse mare foals, to your knowledge?
They do, not nearly to the extent of the thoroughbred industry, but yeah.
So it is possible. You know, I'm a little seed planter, spark starter over here. But if somebody's listening from there and they think that what you're doing at the Last Chance Corral touches their heart, and maybe somebody already is doing something over there, I have no idea. Start something like what you're doing here in Australia. If, let's just say, that hypothetical situation happens, could they call you and say, I want to repeat this in Australia?
Call me from all over the world in regard to their sick foals, and a lot of people come here with their sick foals because they're people that can't afford, you know, or their vet just really doesn't know a whole lot about orphaned foals that they've got, you know, that the mare died, etc. So they're calling me for advice, and I would love to help anybody with, you know, if there's something in my brain which isn't that big to help anybody, they're more than welcome to pick through
and call for help. Oh, that's awesome. So Victoria, any day now, which now we know is tomorrow, you're going to be inundated with the first foals. So what does that look like for you when you go try to get those foals stable? I know these ones you said are a little earlier, so maybe they won't be as tricky as the ones you're going to get in a month from now.
They're healthier. They've been on their mothers for 2 months.
Okay.
So they're essentially weanlings. You know, they're not. It's the ones that are just hours old and days old that are or induced preemies.
So we talked about that before we started the podcast this today. But so just kind of explain that here we are in February. The nurse mares weren't quite needed yet. So these foals got their mom's first milk. They've been there for 2 months. They're not going to be as fragile, these first 5.
Not at all. It's the ones that don't get any milk that are really, they're like AIDS victims. It's awful. They just, everything hits them. But in the beginning, you'll get foals that were born before the breeding sheds. The breeding sheds open officially on Valentine's Day.
That's the day we're opening Valor, and I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I didn't even know that. Wow. Okay.
And there are some that do breed before that. But so the foals that are already on the ground, they've had a nice start with their mums. They're easier to handle medically, but they're so strong and big, and they've never been touched. And
they're emotional.
And they're very emotional because they were really attached, you know. So it's a different set of hardships that they're going through, and they're a little harder to halter train, of course, because they're much bigger and stronger.
And so those foals are not the bulk of what you're going to carry, because
we get a few older ones in the beginning, and then at the very end of, in July and August, but the bulk of them are just, I've picked up foals that were wet. They were just born. And
so do they even get their first milk?
Usually, yes. And if nothing else, they will take a syringe and put 100 cc's of colostrum into them, and that should do the trick. Legally, they are entitled to the same rights as a veal calf, and that's a full-term pregnancy and 24 hours with the mother. And they are at that point considered of a viable life. But there are a lot of people that monitor the veal calf industry because it's an industry, right? They don't want, calves that, but there've never been policing of how the activities are conducted, because nobody wanted these foals, because most of them just would die. Now, there's so much in the past 30 years, so much enhancement of the products that are available for milk and knowledge and, nutrition and medicine, that we can pull most of them through.
After Valentine's Day, the foals are going to be getting younger and younger that you deal with. And so you usually deal with 150 to 200 foals a year. So these first 5, they're going to be big, they're going to be established, but the ones after that are going to be more fragile. So can you just paint a picture? I know you can because you're an artist, but can you just paint a picture for us that says what this is going to look like soon for you? Like you mentioned, the IV fluids and the diarrhea and staying up all night.
Yeah, diarrhea is omnipresent. And because they don't have their mothers and the need to nurse, they nurse on everything. They nurse on the side of a bucket. They'll nurse on a wall. And yes, they'll nurse on each other, and they will ingest things they're not supposed to ingest, and there's stress, the stress of it, and of course the stress is going to make them want to nurse more. It's amazing the stress they're under, and they develop ulcers, and it's just a huge, constantly battling, and you separate the sick ones from the healthy ones, and you're constantly bathing them and cleaning up the messes, the diarrhea. Shavings as my second biggest expense. Keeping that place as clean as it can be is a 24-hour-a-day job. We cut back on the amount of big horses we have during fall season. I just don't take in as many because I don't have the time. It's you can feed them and you can lead them and clean up after them, but you can't work with them because the babies require so much. There's never enough hours in the day. And, mixing, I'll be standing and I mix I've got a room for milk and medicine, and my washing machine is in there because they generate 4 to 5 loads of laundry a day in blankets and towels, etc. And so I just stand in there mixing meds and measuring them out, and we have everything charted on the walls. Thank God that we have a really good vet that comes here every day with the information, do this one to this one and that one to that one, la la la.
So Victoria, every year as you start to get these foals in, and all of us horse riders that aren't in warm climates, we've all been, sitting by the computers and hoping for warm weather. And pretty soon on Facebook and shared around there, we're going to start seeing the photos and the videos and the stories that your volunteers put up. And then there's going to be people sparked with this inspiration to adopt. But I want you to take this time on the podcast to spell it out that you do not put foals on hold. That these people need to plan ahead. If you are truly interested, you need to plan ahead, and I want you to spell out the most frequently asked questions, and so people aren't disappointed, because they need references. They need references from their vet. They need references from other horse people.
Let me tell you.
Okay.
I'm glad you brought this up, because it is the biggest threat in my life is my telephone, because people, instead of doing the thing I'm about to tell you, they call me and they want me to recite all this information to them, and it takes about 45 minutes. And if I get 50 to 60 phone calls like that a day, how do I take care of these foals? What we ask people to do is to go to our website, lastchancecorral.org. And believe me, if they get sparked into wanting to adopt and they've got the appropriate facility and everything, you can do that. But they need to go to lastchancecorral.org, and they need to read and actually read. And it's so much information that it really is difficult for it to come up on a phone, it turns out, to a real computer screen or a laptop or something.
I understand, yeah.
Need to read our requirements and our policies and the frequently asked questions. That way, they will know what they need, they will know what we need, and they'll be prepared for the kinds of things that are going to come up. If they read those things, they'll know how to apply. It's not an application. We need photographs, and we need, my sister Rebecca does background checks on people. She snoops around and finds out if they really have a facility or not. And, a lot of people want things like, I'm going to adopt these foals and we're going to have a barn built in the spring. They'll be in the garage till then. No. You've got to have knowledge. You've got to have a veterinarian and a farrier that will vouch for you. And we've got to be able to Google you and find your facility or your home. And it's really nice that you can do that. And because a lot of people lie. Mm-hmm. And it's good to want things, but it's more important to know what you can and can't do, what you are and are not in a position to do.
Right. And if you honestly look at and say, like me right now, I don't have room for another horse. I could not do this. So my way of supporting you is having you on the podcast, having Valor, advertising you around, talking about you when your foal pictures come out. That's my way to help you.
And it's appreciated because a lot of people have no idea that these animals are out there.
That's what I'm hoping is to touch a group that maybe has not heard of you.
And I have people that I've got two couples that they're older horse people that, because of physical limitations, no longer ride, but they love the groundwork. And every year they take two babies and they raise them till they're weanlings, and they've got them, leading and doing their feet and all that stuff. And then they adopt them out using our standards to some 4-H kids. And that way they get to do what they love, and they get to help these foals move on to the next home, to the right home. It's expediting the adoption procedure because 4-H kids don't have the knowledge to, and they're in school. They can't be feeding these babies all day. So, opportunities like that, that's wonderful.
I spoke to a person yesterday who has adopted from your facility. She's from Georgia. And she was flying back from Hawaii, so she couldn't talk to me yesterday. But I'm going to record her today of what her experience has been. And I'm glad you mentioned this couple, because her and I talked, and that kind of is maybe her role too. That because she prefers an established broke horse, but she does love raising the foals. And so I would put that forth as an idea to somebody who maybe has spare room. I can think of a couple people.
And they meet the qualifications.
That meet the qualifications, yeah. But I'm thinking of a lovely lady that I often have lunch with, and she's been on the podcast, and I'll just call her out, Sandy, that she would maybe be really good at this. And so it's possible if you have the facilities and the heart and you want to help, and maybe you can adopt. And then
there's a lot of different ways that you can help.
Yeah.
Spend $20,000 a year on milk powder alone. Quality of mercy is not cheap. Mm-hmm. Can't afford to live without it.
I was going to mention that I think there might be a way, maybe I'm wrong, but on Amazon where you can create sort of like a bridal registry, but it's more like for rescues where you can say, we need these things. Do you have anything like that set up?
But here's the one thing in regard to the milk. People always say, well, I'll buy you a bag of milk. And I have to explain this to them. I buy it by the ton.
Mm-hmm. Cheaper.
If I buy it by the ton, instead of paying $150 or $160 for a bag, get it for $103. 102. So you get more bang for the buck
For sure.
buying in bulk. You see what I mean? It's like you save
100%.
an extra half a bag by buying it by the ton instead of one bag at a time. I couldn't afford it. Same with shavings. If I buy them in bulk, I get a discount.
So you do have a wish list on your website?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think it might be on the Facebook. I'm not sure.
Okay. Sounds good. Paint me the picture of what a successful adopter would have. They would have just
They would have, first of all, they've got to have horses on their property.
already.
Yes. Because they're going to teach these babies to be horses. We adopt them out, the younger ones, in pairs because they need somebody to be with. They cuddle up out there. I mean, it looks like a litter of puppies. They're all over each other in a bundle. They need that support or they're going to get depressed, and the stress of that, they're going to get sick. They won't eat. But if you put these little ones in with an older one, they are going to try and nurse until that animal hurts them. So they have their buddy, and they are, each other's companion. They're going to have an adequate facility, and this is outlined on the website, with proper fencing, no electric wire, no barbed wire, no high tensile, because these babies are reckless. When they're older, they can go in a high tensile, etc. But they need a shelter and a corral where they can be by themselves for the first 2 or 3 months. And then you'll introduce them, once that need to suckle goes away, then you introduce them to the other. And in the meantime, you play with them, and you can separate them and halter break them, and, there are lots of things they can do, but they do need that companionship of a buddy. And if they've got an appropriate facility, they've got a vet and a farrier that will write. I don't care if the vet wants to write a book about you. That's fine. But all I really care about are 2 questions answered. What is the level of care that these people provide for their horses? And number 2, would that vet or farrier recommend these people and their facility for raising orphan foals? That's all I need to know. And they need to send photographs, and when they read through the material, if you show up with a really bad hair, there's actually a quote of mine in there. If I can't go in your trailer with a sledgehammer and hit the floor, don't bring it here. And it's got to be enclosed. You can't have half doors in the back because you can't tie them, and they're going to jump out. So you need to have, it's all common sense. It really is. Just horse sense. And horse sense is one of the things that I like to highlight about the experience of raising these foals. You never have had, and you will never again have, the kind of communication that you develop with the foals that you raise. If you think about it in your life, there's one person who can drop you with a look, and that's your mother. When she shoots you that look, in trouble. And you become their mother. And it just becomes inherent, the language that you have with this animal. It's like across the board, everybody that comes and shows me pictures says the same thing. I never had a horse I didn't have to train. It's like he can hear me think. It really is, it's amazing. Just a beautiful level of communication and trust. So that's something to look forward to.
Well, that's beautifully said. So we'll start to wrap it up here. I know your time is valuable. So how many foals do you expect this year?
I don't know. Since COVID, things have been very different.
Okay. And
I would say probably close to 100.
Okay. What can listeners do? We already touched on this a little bit, but just as we're wrapping things up here, what could listeners do to support Last Chance Corral if they can't adopt don't feel equipped to adopt, can they go directly to Last Chance Corral? Is it .com or .org?
.org.
.org. So lastchancecorral.org, and I believe you have a PayPal link where they could donate directly to you?
If you're not in a position to actually adopt, any donation is welcome, because, these foals, by the time we stabilize them and get them ready and out the door, we've got around $1,000 a piece in them. Mm-hmm. It's and we adopt them out for just $200-300, mm-hmm. because, and then that person's going to invest a lot in their milk. It's not cheap, like I said, but we can't afford to just let them die. If you want, you can make any donation, or you could sponsor a foal, and for $250, you buy the life of a foal. And when that foal is ready and leaves here and gets adopted, that money goes back in and buys the next life of a foal, so on and so forth, and you can make a difference.
Thank you so much. Thank you for your time. I know it's valuable, and we wish you the best with these foals you're picking up tomorrow, and we'll be watching for the photos.
Yeah.
And keep doing what you're doing.
A lot of people use, gated horses?
Some do, yeah. But they have Passos, they have Tennessee Walkers.
Because we do have a lot of gated babies coming in.
And they also use mules. And I did see.
And we will have some mules. Those are really sought after for some reason. If you're a mule person, you love them.
There are some very competitive mules in endurance riding. Yep.
I should think there would be. Mm-hmm. Yeah. There are some rugged animals. Yep. Thank you for having me, and thank everybody for listening. And I hope I was able to convey some solid thoughts about this, and maybe you would like to raise your own foals and your new best friends.
Raise the next generation of endurance horses or trail horse. We have a lot of people who log miles.
My theory is, for training horses, I like to train them on the trail. Mm-hmm. There's so much they can learn outside of the ring. Yes, yep. You need some ring work too. People say just trail riding. It's like there's no such thing as just trail riding. Your horse loves that trail. You love that trail. You're out there in nature. You get to see the birds and the deer and the wild turkeys, and it's just such a healthy experience for both you and the horse. There's no just about it. Just going in circles. I know. Am out the bounty of nature.
Yes, it's a bad habit. It's like saying I'm sorry too much, but I think that goes there. But
no,
I know, and I still say that.
They call and they're looking for a horse. I say, well, what are you looking to do with a horse? And they say, well, just trail ride. And I say, well, that takes a really good horse out through whatever environment nature throws at him or happens. You're outside of the ring,
Mm-hmm. So this is a reminder to Chris, myself, and this is a reminder to all of you that trail ride, there is no just to it, because truthfully, that's where my mind goes when I'm daydreaming about something, when I'm working or something, where I'd rather be. Or it's one of the reasons why in our Roar Horse Endurance group, I say, share your photos, share your videos.
Yeah.
And
you have to have a tremendous ability to trust that horse and that horse to trust you. Mm-hmm. Because you can get in some hairy situations out there.
You can.
That you didn't anticipate.
You
it
sure
just
can.
happened.
And you can get into some serious beauty out there. And I feel like that is my church out there. That's where I feel close to God. I don't necessarily feel close by going to a congregation. I feel closer out there with fewer distractions other than the sky and the flowers and the grass and the beauty and the wildlife. That's where I go to center myself. And there is no just to it. It is.
Nope, there's no just. That is the true Zen.
Well, my friend, it's been so good to talk to you. I always love talking to you.
And all your supporters for supporting us and the babies that you saved last year. You know,
thank you.
That you can to bed at night and you'll sleep good, whatever, but that you helped pull some babies from certain deaths, and that now they are somebody's best friend. And by next year, you might run into them on the trail, and you might never know that they were a Last Chance Corral horse.
Yeah, that's so true. And thank you for the bracelet you made for me. And that made my day, and the way you decorated.
And it doesn't bother you. I like good to come out of it. Mm-hmm. And so I braid hat bands and bracelets and necklaces and things from the long horsehair. And I get to see my friends that, time made a burden of years and they slipped away. Part of them is still with me.
We lost a horse to EPM, and it was so quick and it was so devastating. And I could not, I wish I would have, but I could not bring myself to cut his tail. And so when you decorated that envelope and sent that to me, and that's what was in there, it brought tears to me because I wasn't able to do that for Houdini. So it meant a lot to me, and it meant to me, instead of having that tail hair from him to remind me of the last day I was with him, I have your bracelet that you sent me from tail hair. Those are from horses that I have had to assist on their journey off this planet, and we call ourselves horse people, horsewomen, horsemen. We've taken the trappings of our lives from that relationship. People decorate their homes with horse stuff, and they dress like horse people. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And I think that we all, as a group of people, but as individuals, owe horses something. They've done so much for us and given us so much of themselves that to take in a horse in need, like once a year, not even a horse that you intend to keep, but call a shelter and sponsor a horse, help a horse, bring it home for a few months, fatten it up, and help it then find its way to a home. We owe them that much. To do something just for a horse, not because it's your horse. Just help that horse. You want to make sure that they've got a warm, safe place to sleep and good food to eat. And somebody who cares.
Yep. Absolutely.
And I know that the tail bracelet you made me was from a horse who was let loose from the bonds of this earth, but it reminds me of the foals that you're saving. When I see it, it reminds me of the future. It reminds me of the foals you're saving now, this year, that aren't even born. It reminds me of the ones that you've already done and that you're doing in the future, and that we are honored to have partnered with you. So thank you.
That's the art of it. Mm-hmm. That's the art of it, and that's what art does. And when you create something out of precious ingredients as precious as a fallen comrade's hair, that's for the future, that's for the past, and it's in the present. And that's how I see it. What color was yours?
Chestnut, which I have a herd of mostly chestnuts. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's probably from my Lucky. He was a prince.
Yeah.
He was kind of a
he's
an but
so you had to go say that. You had to go there. But yeah, that was the Appaloosa that we
know what? I used to tell people, I mean, he was just so clever and ornery, and I loved it. I love a little challenge. And I'd say, yeah, he might be but he's mine.
and you know what? Houdini that passed away, he was just the ultimate jokester, prankster, get into things. He had this thing about him, and he had so many traits that I don't know. I'm sure this won't make it into the podcast, but the day that we let him go, he whinnied a whinny I had never heard. He was already down, and my husband said this to me, and I felt what Jim said to me was, you would have swore if you could have seen what he saw. I swear he saw heaven open, because he looked like he was so excited and he whinnied, and he was looking somewhere when he let go. And long story short, but we ended up with a 7-month-old from North Dakota, and he has so many of Houdini's traits. Now, I'm not saying he's, obviously he was born at a different time, but we have barn cameras, and one day I looked out on the barn camera checking on the new baby, and my heart skipped because it looked like there were 2 horses in there. And I panicked. I'm like, there's 2 horses. I wish I would have screenshotted it. But what it was, that time of day, the light was hitting Joey, the new colt, and it was casting a perfect outline of a shadow on the opposite stall wall. It looked like there were 2 horses in there. And so I've told Jim, I said, I think that Houdini has visited him and said, hey, do these things so that she knows that, I've sent you here, because he does do some of the exact same things. And he was what I would say was my spirit horse. He was the only horse I've ever had who he would come up to me and he would put his nose on my cheek and stare me down in the eye. He would just stare at me. And it's like we all like to stare in our horse's eyes. He liked to stare back in my eyes, and he's the only horse in my entire life that's ever done that. He seemed to be able to connect with me and just really be there for me. He's also the one that he could sit for whatever amount of time and you could saddle him, and he might have a little squeal or one little complaint buck in him, but you could take him anywhere. You could ask him to go anywhere. He was amazing, and I'm hoping Joey turns out to be that way. Joey seems to be very smart and very naughty. He's very naughty.
There you go.
Yeah.
We love our naughty horses.
Yeah, those are usually your lifetime memory horses, the ones that give you grief. So we'll see where we'll see where he ends up. Well, thank you, my dear. I know that you have a lot to do and you have a big day. Thank you, Victoria, for everything that you do for these foals and for letting us be part of it. It's an honor.
And hopefully some people will become part of it and start submitting the things that they need to so that they can be pre-approved. Because if you see a foal that you want, you have to jump on it because other people might want it too. And if you're pre-approved, you can make a phone call.
Yes, get on that now if you even think that this is a possibility, because you're not going to be the only person. If they have 100 foals to deal with, that's 100 applications or 50 applications. That's a lot of work.
When we say they're available, that means they have to go because I can't keep an infinite number here, right? Mm-hmm. We want to keep it to where we can care for, adequately care for and have enough space to take care of a certain number. And then, they come in over time, so it's spaced out. And if they're healthy and ready to go, they can go.
And we don't want you to be disappointed. If you don't want to be disappointed, do your references and your paperwork now, because if that perfect heart horse shows up available and somebody else has their stuff done, they're the ones getting that baby. So
that's right. It is important to become pre-approved.
Be proactive.
Don't get approved when you've already seen that Appaloosa or paint that you wanted so bad, because it'll be gone by the time you go through the process. Although I had one woman approved in 5 minutes. Her vet farrier just happened to be at home, and we're able to, send off a email, and she did. But and another part that's funny is that people are sure they are in love with one foal. They're sure that's the one, and the photo just spoke to them. But then when they get here, some other little foal picks them out and steals their heart. To be in that room with all those babies around you it's amazing. It is. I mean, it just touches your heart. It's a wonderful, wonderful environment, and it's right there. I'm just one pane of glass away.
Well, thank you for being there, one pane of glass away, because you're the only person I know who is, if you're going to call it the horse of church, then you're the missionary to there, going and picking up the babies and saving them. So
it's the first church of the horse.
That's right. I think we all ride there.
Absolutely.
It surrounds the earth, and we all ride at the First Church of Horse.
Yep. All right. Well, carry on, sally forth, and in the words of Winston Churchill, don't let the birds grind you down.
Thanks, Victoria. Same to you.
Haters are going to hate, and we don't care. They can do what they want.
That's right.
We're just going to save the babies.
Save the babies, and good luck on your trip tomorrow to pick them up. Thank you for joining us for another episode of Endurance Horse Podcast. If you would like to support the Last Chance Corral, go to lastchancecorral.org, and you can donate directly there. And you could also check out how to adopt a foal. If you would like to support this podcast, a great way to do so is go to warhorseendurance, it's one word, .com, warhorseendurance.com, and join one of our challenges. There are a few spots open for Valor, but I think there's only 12 spots. So that challenge is just 25 miles or 25 hours. And I know that's not a lot to endurance people. There are much longer challenges on our website. So if you go to warhorseendurance.com, it's a great way to support this podcast and helps us keep going. I appreciate all your likes, your shares, your listens, and if there's anybody you think you would know who might be around that area to support, to volunteer, to adopt one of these foals, please share this episode with them and share Victoria's website, lastchancecorral.org. Thanks so much.